When life pushes you to the very edge, when everyone around you turns their back and walks away, sometimes the most unlikely person steps forward to change everything. What happens when a desperate maid accepts the one job that could destroy her reputation forever, only to discover it leads to the most incredible transformation of her life? You won't believe how this story unfolds. Courage, loyalty, and unexpected miracles await. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and stay tuned for more incredible stories like this. Keisha Williams had never imagined her life would come to this. Standing outside the towering glass building in downtown Lagos, clutching a crumpled newspaper clipping in her sweaty palm, she felt smaller than she ever had before. The job advertisement was circled in red ink, desperate handwriting that matched her desperate circumstances. But this wasn't just any job posting. This was the job nobody wanted, the position that had been advertised for 3 weeks straight with no takers. The morning sun blazed mercilessly overhead as Keisha adjusted her worn headscarf and smoothed down her faded dress. She had walked for 2 hours to reach this place, her savings too thin to afford transport. Every step had been a reminder of how far she'd fallen, how quickly life could strip away everything you thought was secure. Just 6 months ago, Keisha had been working as a cleaner at a busy hotel in Victoria Island. The pay wasn't much, but it was steady, reliable. She could afford her small room in Mushin, send a little money home to her sick mother in Ibadan, and even save a few naira each month. Life wasn't luxurious, but it was manageable. Then the hotel changed management and suddenly experienced workers like Keisha were replaced with younger, cheaper alternatives. The rejection had been swift and brutal. No explanation, no severance, just a security guard escorting her out the back door like she was some kind of criminal. Since then, Keisha had applied for dozens of jobs, each rejection hitting harder than the last. Her savings dwindled to nothing. Her landlord grew increasingly impatient. Her mother's medication needs became impossible to meet. Now, standing before this imposing building, Keisha knew she was out of options. The job posting had been specific, almost brutally honest about why previous applicants had fled. Personal assistant and caretaker needed for elderly businessmen. Must be comfortable with difficult working conditions. Previous staff departed due to challenging circumstances. High compensation for the right candidate. What the advertisement didn't mention, but what everyone in Lagos seemed to know, was that Marcus Adebayo wasn't just any businessman. He was one of the wealthiest men in West Africa, a petroleum magnate whose empire stretched across 3 continents. But wealth couldn't protect him from the whispers that followed him everywhere, the rumors that made domestic staff quit within days of starting. Some said he was cursed, others claimed he was simply impossible to work for, demanding and cruel. The most persistent rumor was that anyone who worked closely with him would face terrible misfortune. 3 maids had quit in the past month alone, each leaving in tears, refusing to explain what had driven them away. Keisha had heard all the stories. But when you're facing eviction, when your mother's medicine costs more than you can earn, when hunger becomes your constant companion, even cursed money starts to look appealing. She had nothing left to lose. The elevator ride to the penthouse seemed to last forever. Keisha's reflection stared back at her from the polished steel doors, a young woman with kind eyes and worry lines that seemed too deep for her 26 years. Her dark skin gleamed with nervous perspiration, and she wiped her palms repeatedly on her dress. When the doors finally opened, Keisha stepped into a world she'd only seen in movies. The penthouse was magnificent, with floor to ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of Lagos Harbor. Marble floors stretched endlessly, decorated with artwork that probably cost more than most people's houses. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls, casting rainbow patterns across the walls. But something felt wrong. The space was too quiet, too still. Despite all the luxury, there was an emptiness here that made Keisha's skin crawl. She could hear her own footsteps echoing as she walked toward the sitting area where she'd been told to wait. "You must be Keisha Williams," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see a thin, nervous looking man in an expensive suit approaching. His eyes darted constantly, as if he expected something terrible to happen at any moment. "I'm David Okoro, Mr. Adebayo's secretary. Thank you for coming." David's handshake was quick and clammy. He kept glancing toward a closed door at the far end of the room, his anxiety palpable. "I have to be honest with you, Miss Williams. This job isn't what most people expect. Mr. Adebayo is particular about his needs. Very particular." Keisha nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "The advertisement mentioned difficult working conditions. I'm prepared for that." David's laugh was bitter. The advertisement couldn't begin to explain the reality. "But let me ask you this. Why are you here? Really here? What's desperate enough to make you consider this position?" The question caught Keisha off guard. She had prepared answers about her work ethic, her reliability, her experience. But David's direct approach demanded honesty. "My mother is dying," she said simply. "I need money for her treatment. I've been unemployed for months, and I'm about to lose my home. I don't have the luxury of being selective." David studied her face carefully, as if searching for something. "At least you're honest. The last three candidates lied about their motivations. They thought this would be easy money. They were wrong." He gestured toward the closed door. "Mr. Adebayo is in there. He's been waiting for you. But before you go in, I need to warn you about something. Something the advertisement couldn't possibly explain." Keisha's heart began to race. "What do you mean?" David's voice dropped to a whisper. "Mr. Adebayo isn't just difficult to work for. He's changed ever since the diagnosis, ever since he found out about the cancer. He's become someone else entirely. Angry, bitter, pushing everyone away. But that's not the worst part." He paused, looking around, as if afraid someone might overhear. "The worst part is Rex." "Rex?" Keisha asked, confused. "Mr. Adebayo's dog, a massive German shepherd that's been his companion for 8 years. Rex is dying too. Same aggressive cancer that's killing his master. The doctors say they both have maybe 3 months left, and Mr. Adebayo has become obsessed with making sure Rex is comfortable, protected, cared for every moment of every day." David's expression grew more troubled. The previous staff couldn't handle it. They thought they were being hired to care for a man, not to essentially become a full-time nurse to a dying dog. Rex requires constant attention, medication every few hours, special food, gentle exercise, and Mr. Adebayo watches everything. If he thinks you're not giving Rex proper care, if he believes you're being negligent or unkind. "What happens?" Keisha asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "He explodes, screams, throws things, threatens to destroy your life and the lives of everyone you care about." and he has the power to do it. The last maid quit after he threatened to have her entire family blacklisted from employment in Lagos, all because she forgot to give Rex his afternoon medication. The room fell silent except for the distant hum of air conditioning. Keisha felt her mouth go dry. This was worse than she'd imagined. She wasn't just being hired to clean and organize. She was being asked to become a caretaker for a dying animal under the watchful eye of a grief stricken billionaire who had the power to ruin her life. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked finally. David's expression softened slightly. "Because you seem different. The others were here for the money, nothing more. But you're here for your mother. That kind of love, that kind of desperation, it might be exactly what Mr. Adebayo needs to see. Rex responds to genuine care, not just professional obligation." He moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. Mr. Adebayo used to be different. Before the diagnosis, before Rex got sick, he was known for his generosity, his kindness to employees. The man in there isn't who he really is. He's just scared and angry and facing the loss of the only companion who never judged him." David's hand rested on the door handle. "The salary is 2 million naira per month, more money than you've probably ever seen, but you'll earn every kobo of it. Are you ready?" Keisha thought of her mother's face, pale and thin from illness. She thought of the eviction notice crumpled in her bag. She thought of all the doors that had been slammed in her face over the past months. Then she straightened her shoulders and nodded. "I'm ready." The door opened with a soft click, and Keisha stepped into what felt like a completely different world. The room was dimly lit, heavy curtains blocking most of the afternoon sun. The air carried the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something medicinal that made her nose wrinkle slightly. Marcus Adebayo sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than most people's annual salary, but he looked nothing like the powerful businessman she'd expected. His once commanding frame had been diminished by illness, his dark skin bearing the ashen undertone that comes with prolonged suffering. His eyes, though still sharp and intelligent, held a weariness that seemed to reach into his very soul. Beside his chair, on a plush dog bed that looked more comfortable than most human furniture, lay Rex. The German Shepherd was massive, even lying down, his thick coat a rich mixture of black and tan. But like his master, the dog showed signs of his battle with illness. His breathing was labored, and his once bright eyes had dimmed to a tired amber. "So you're the latest candidate," Marcus said, his voice rough with exhaustion and barely contained emotion. "David tells me you're here because your mother is sick." "Cancer?" Keisha nodded, surprised by his directness. "Yes, sir. She needs treatment that I can't afford." Marcus's expression shifted slightly, something that might have been understanding flickering across his features. "Then you know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer, to feel helpless while the person who means everything to you slips away a little more each day." He gestured toward Rex, who lifted his head slightly at the sound of his name. "This is Rex. He's been my companion for 8 years. Never asked for anything except food, shelter, and the occasional walk. Never judged my decisions, never betrayed my trust, never left me when things got difficult." Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "The doctors say he has maybe 2 months left. The same cancer that's eating away at me has taken hold of him too, but I refuse to let him suffer alone. I refuse to let him die without dignity. Keisha felt her heart clench as she watched the interaction between man and dog. Despite his illness, Rex managed to lift his head and rest his massive paw on Marcus's leg, as if offering comfort to his human companion. The previous staff didn't understand. Marcus continued, his voice growing harder. They saw Rex as just an animal, a burden to be endured while they collected their salary. They gave him his medication when they remembered. They rushed through his care so they could attend to other tasks. They treated him like he was already dead. Marcus's eyes blazed with sudden fury. But Rex isn't dead. He's still here, still fighting, still capable of joy and love and hope. And as long as he's alive, he deserves to be treated with the same respect and care that any family member would receive. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Keisha found herself studying Rex more carefully, noticing the way his tail made a faint attempt to wag when Marcus spoke to him, the way his eyes tracked movement despite his obvious discomfort. "What exactly would you need me to do?" Keisha asked softly. Marcus's expression shifted, becoming more businesslike. "Rex needs medication every 4 hours, day and night. He requires a special diet that must be prepared fresh twice daily. He needs gentle exercise, but not too much. His bedding must be changed regularly to prevent sores. He needs constant companionship because being alone frightens him now." He paused, studying Keisha's face carefully. But more than any of that, he needs someone who can see past his illness to the magnificent animal he still is. Someone who can treat him with kindness and dignity, not pity or disgust. Keisha knelt beside Rex's bed, moving slowly so as not to startle him. The dog's eyes focused on her with surprising clarity, and she felt something stir in her chest. "Hello, Rex," she whispered gently. To her amazement, Rex's tail actually wagged, a weak but unmistakable sign of approval. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes widening with surprise. "He doesn't usually respond to strangers anymore," Marcus said quietly. "Not since he got sick." Keisha extended her hand slowly, letting Rex sniff her fingers before gently stroking his head. The dog's eyes closed contentedly, and she could swear she heard a soft sigh of relief. "My grandmother always said that animals can sense a person's heart," Keisha said softly. "They know who genuinely cares and who's just pretending." Marcus watched the interaction with growing amazement. "You're not afraid of him?" "Should I be?" Keisha asked, continuing to stroke Rex's head. "He's just a sick old dog who needs love and care. What's frightening about that?" For the first time since she'd entered the room, Marcus smiled. It was a small, fragile thing, but it transformed his entire face. The last maid screamed when Rex tried to sniff her hand. She said he was too big, too intimidating. She lasted exactly 3 hours. Keisha continued her gentle ministrations, and Rex seemed to melt under her touch. "My mother always told me that caring for someone, human or animal, is one of the most sacred responsibilities we can have. It's not just about the tasks or the medicine, it's about preserving dignity and showing love when someone is at their most vulnerable." Marcus's eyes filled with tears he'd been holding back for weeks. "That's exactly what I've been trying to tell people. Rex isn't just dying. He's still living, still capable of happiness and comfort. He deserves to spend his remaining time surrounded by love, not treated like a burden." The room fell quiet except for Rex's slightly labored breathing and the distant sounds of Lagos traffic far below. Keisha found herself thinking about her own mother, lying in a hospital bed in Ibadan, probably wondering if her daughter would ever find a way to pay for the treatment she needed. I'll take the job, Keisha said finally, not just for the money, though I desperately need it, but because Rex deserves someone who will care for him properly, and because I understand what it's like to watch someone you love suffer. Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, not bothering to hide his emotion. You don't know what this means to me, to us. As if understanding the conversation, Rex opened his eyes and looked directly at Keisha. In that moment, she saw something that took her breath away. Despite his illness, despite his pain, there was still so much life in those amber eyes, so much love and loyalty and hope. I promise you both, Keisha said solemnly. Rex will receive the best care I can possibly give him. Every day, every hour for as long as he needs it. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. In that moment, Keisha realized that she hadn't just accepted a job, she had accepted a sacred trust, a responsibility that would demand everything she had to give. But as she looked at Rex, still resting peacefully under her gentle touch, she knew she had made the right choice. Sometimes the most unlikely opportunities lead to the most profound transformations. Sometimes caring for someone else's beloved companion becomes the path to discovering your own strength and purpose. The next 3 months would test Keisha in ways she never imagined, but they would also teach her that love and loyalty know no boundaries, that dignity can be preserved even in the face of death, and that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as the jobs nobody else wants. In caring for Rex, Keisha would discover not just financial salvation, but something far more valuable. She would learn that true wealth isn't measured in money, but in the connections we make, the lives we touch, and the love we share with those who need us most.